All right, so I am so excited to have this conversation today because I know this is something that we all go through, perhaps even on a daily basis. I'm talking with Chrissy Fishbane about managing motherhood guilt, and Chrissy is one of the co-founders of Her Health Collective, which is a supportive community for moms looking to reframe the way that we handle postpartum care. So I know we're going to be nodding along with this discussion, taking notes, pausing to rewind to really get those gems, and I'm so excited to dive in. So thank you, Chrissy, so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here. I'm so excited for what you are doing. This is so needed, every mom that I ever speak to, I hear a refrain of just how much they need more support.
Right.
So that's what Her Health Collective does, and I love that that's what you're doing too. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen real quick. So yeah, Her Health Collective has found over time that we are facing what we're terming the goddess myth. And it really comes down to this idea of mom guilt. And we are facing this period in life where we have an entire generation of moms that are just being ravaged by this mom guilt. And if you are a mom, I feel like, as you said, you're probably nodding your head in agreement. This idea actually originally came from an article that I read. So the article is actually from October of 2017. But I read it not long after becoming a mom myself. And it's an article by Claire Howarth. She talks about this idea of the goddess myth. And she says that there's this vision of perfect motherhood. And she says that that vision is really hurting moms. And as I read this article, everything she said resonated with me. And I come from a background, I'm a certified therapeutic exercise specialist. So before Her Health Collective was founded, I've worked with a lot of moms, one-on-one and in group settings. And everything this article said is stuff that I have heard moms say continuously to me. So this concept really stems back if we come at things from sort of a historical perspective and we look at moms and how moms have traditionally taken care of their family unit. It has always been as a collective, as a tribe and a village, and they've come together and they've supported each other. I love this quote. It's from a Motherly article by Beth.
I'm getting chills. I'm reading it and I'm like, wow, we really have gotten so far from this model.
We have, and it's scary when you think about it. You know, I'm just going to read a portion of it because, like you said, it does give you chills. We scrubbed our clothes in the streams while laughing at splashing toddlers and mourning the latest loss of love or life. We wove, sewed, picked, tidied, or mended while swapping stories and minding our aging grandmothers. We tended one another's wounds, both physical and emotional, relied on one another for strength when times were tough, and sought counsel from our community's wise, experienced, and cherished elders. And we don't do that anymore. We live in a society where we're so mobile and our jobs and careers move our families around. We're no longer near extended family. And what's more, we're no longer around this tight-knit village of support. And we're seeing that come through in how mothers are handling the emotional burden of motherhood. So Her Health Collective, surveyed a ton of moms. We had all of our members respond, and we had a lot of our just followers respond to this. And overwhelmingly, these are the terms that have come back when we ask how mothers are handling things and how they feel. Anxious, depressed, overwhelmed, disappointed, and guilty. These 5 characteristics I feel regularly. I, in my line of work, have talked to countless moms that say these same things. And the overwhelming reason we keep coming back to these 5 things are that we are trying to live up to expectations that we simply cannot meet. There is this standard up here that we're striving to reach, and it's simply not possible. We have this cognitive dissonance. There's this disconnect between what we think we're supposed to be doing and what we're able to do. And whenever we have cognitive dissonance, it creates discomfort in our bodies, physically, mentally, emotionally. So there's this cognitive dissonance between what they know to be right for themselves, what moms know to be right for themselves, and what they're told is right for their children. And we're constantly stuck in this tug of war between what is right for us and what we're being told is right. As we face that, looking at all of this data that we've accumulated over time, I have kind of broken it down into 3 areas of pressure, of guilt that moms feel. And the sort of global one is media. Social media, Hollywood media, you name it, scrolling through Instagram, looking at your Facebook feed, there is this pressure that we feel. So there was this study done in the Family Relations Journal in 2012 where they said 44% of women increased their Facebook use when they became a mom. And I kind of chuckle at that because it's gotta be more than that. You think about when you become a mom and, you know, you've got late night feedings. I don't care if you're breastfeeding, pumping, formula feeding, you've got these late night feedings. You've got, you know, if you have a colicky baby, you've got all of this stuff happening. What do you do during that time? You reach for your phone and you start scrolling.
Right.
So women are spending more time on these platforms. Now, when they continued on with that study, they found that 82% of moms said they compare themselves to other women online, to other moms in particular. And I don't think that that statistic would surprise anybody. We're looking at this curated feed of perfection, of what everybody else wants us to see, and we're comparing ourselves, our down and out moments that we're probably most likely scrolling social media and comparing that. 69% that they have said that they have insecurities about motherhood that stem from social media. And I know that I do. I certainly look at social media and I feel inadequate about things. And I have a lot of awareness about this issue. And I still find myself doing that comparison game. So what we find is that when we go online, you can always find someone that's doing it better than you. And it's going to be different for different people. In that same survey, they asked moms what it is that they find themselves comparing themselves to. And the number one response was they feel like other families are having more fun. So it's that FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. You scroll and you see the family vacations they're taking, the little excursions they've gone on, the toy rotation that the mom is doing, or the cool thing she did in her backyard, and you are constantly in this comparison mode and you feel guilt.
Even just with dinner though, like sometimes I'm just like, oh my god, they eat such beautiful plating and like this, like, so it's not even the big vacation. Sometimes it's just that everyday thing, like, oh my god, did you really just bake them fresh cookies on a Wednesday?
I am so glad you said that. So I'm going to skip the second one for a second. Look at the third one. That's the third most commented reason. Exactly correct. Yeah, there is this
so
huge,
funny.
I mean, if you think about feeding our kids, there's so much pressure from the moment we decide what sort of milk to give them, whether breast, formula, whatever it might be, all the way to how we wean them and provide purees or baby-led weaning. And then as we get into picky eating and toddler years, there is so much pressure on moms to get that feeding right. And if you talk to a lot of pediatricians, they say they'll tell you, you know, it really is okay if they eat grilled cheese and just grilled cheese that's fine. So there's this social comparison with the meals, like you just said. I love that you brought that up. And then another big one, especially coming from my previous line of work, I have talked to so many moms about this idea of getting their body back. And there is so much guilt wrapped around that idea that my body, look at that mom, she's 3 months postpartum and look at her, and there's this comparison of where everyone else's body is, where your body used to be, and this feeling that you have to get it back somehow. And there's guilt wrapped up in that too. And the final most cited reason was that they don't feel as happy as other parents seem to be. And I love the seem to be piece right there, because that's what it really comes down to, right? When we look at media, when we look at social media, we have to remember that it's that curated feed that we're seeing and not always reality, or at least all the time reality. It's just a blip on their day. So just keeping that in mind. And Her Health Collective, we rely on social media a lot. We do have an online community that we offer moms, and we want to recognize that when used appropriately, media and social media can encourage community and it can cultivate creativity, but it's a double-edged sword, and you have to be careful because there's that trap of comparison there. So some takeaways regarding social media for moms. Number one, unfollow accounts. It took me a long time to get brave enough to do this. And I'm not saying unfriend anyone, but if there is that one mom, and she's probably that one mom that is so nice, because it's usually that mom, right? But in your mind, she gets built up and becomes almost this nemesis because you're constantly comparing, and it's no fault of her own. She's not done a thing to you, but she makes you feel something inside that doesn't feel so good. Unfollow that account. Even if it's just for a month, give yourself a break from all of those posts filling your feed, and you will be amazed at that shift that can happen from that. Be purposeful in social media time. This is another big one. How often do you go on social media and say, oh, I just want to see how many likes I got on that picture of my child? And, what's going to be a 2-second quick check ends up being 40 minutes of you scrolling and wasting time. And there's so many apps available now that allow you to be more purposeful. It will give you warnings when you spent so much time. I use social media for work a lot, so it's a little different, but I have set times of the day where, okay, I'm going to do it with my morning coffee. I'm going to check in right after lunch, and then I'll do it right after dinner. So it's easy for me to pop it around mealtime, but then I don't get on the rest of the day because it is such a time suck. And I'll start the day in a good mood, and after a round of social media, I'm not in as much of a good mood anymore.
And it's designed that way. So it's not like it's like you're at fault. Like it's literally like, oh, this is the hashtag you follow. Check this out. What about this? Like that explore feed. I'm just like, whoa, this got really intense over the last couple of years.
It's such a rabbit hole. And I'm glad you said hashtag. I mean, you can really play around with what hashtags you follow. Seek out those positive ones or those ones that will be helpful and beneficial to you. Seek out those accounts that lift you up and follow those people.
Right.
And then I always like to also think of something that I can do myself, because can all be a part of the solution too, right? So in order to be a part of the solution, be real on your own social media account. And then I'm not saying that you have to be super vulnerable and, share your lowest moment, but I remember I pumped exclusively for 1 year. And I remember when I spilled a whole massive amount of my milk and how devastated, it's devastating, right?
And liquid gold.
Yes, it is. And I shared that, and I shared my devastation about it in particular. And a lot of people reached out and mentioned that it had resonated with them. Just like that sadness that emerges in so many aspects of motherhood. So just being real can be very helpful. The second sort of area that we see this pressure and this guilt build up in this motherhood myth is with peers. So it's no longer on the internet. It's now in your community and in your church groups or your mom groups or whatever you're a part of. It's with fellow moms. And I absolutely love this quote. This is from a Psychology Today article by a therapist, Karen Kleiman. I'm going to read this one too because it does pack a powerful punch. I sat for a while in the circle of neurotic competitiveness, listening to mothers chatter on about whose baby was doing what and how many activities they had squeezed into their sleep-deprived schedules. My head swelled with the rude sights and sounds of one mother trying to outdo another. Why was I there? This of me. Almost every mom I've talked to has mentioned being in some mom group or circle of moms and feeling this. I have not yet met a mom that hasn't experienced this at some point. This comparison again, and even ourselves, if we're honest with ourselves, we have probably been a part of this in some fashion, in this form of judgment of others. And it's almost a protection mechanism that we do that to feel better about ourselves in its own way. So this is a survey from Mott Children's Hospital. They did a poll and they looked at moms of babies and toddlers, and they asked them who's been criticized by the following groups. And you can see other moms in public is 12%, friends 14%. And let's just quickly note child's other parent 36%. That really needs to change. But the point here is that this is outright criticism. So this is like somebody saying something very critical and judgmental of you. And if we stop and think about things like micro expressions and the different ways that we might feel judged without somebody actually overtly saying something to me, that number will increase exponentially. So we have to be mindful of, even in ourselves, the judgments that we pass on other mothers, on other women who are just doing the best they can. We're all doing the best we can on any given day, right? So just being more mindful as we head into these situations. We really need other moms. There's no way around it. If you think back to that idea of the community and the village that we used to have in previous generations, we still need that. We need other moms to walk this journey with us. We need other women to answer our questions and to hold our hands when we're scared and to just let us vent. Oh my gosh, what would I do without my mom friends letting me vent, you know?
I think that's the biggest thing, just to feel like you're not alone. Like, wait, I was holding all this in because I felt like I was alone in this journey. And then you talk to other people and you're like, wait, we're all going through the exact same thing. Yet are over here like, I'm too scared. I don't want to share it because then I'll be the failed mom. But yeah, that venting is the big thing.
There is so much power in sharing experiences. So in this world where we live further away from our extended family, and we've already talked about these high expectations that permeate everything women do now. And, in this quote, they mentioned the internet isolating as much as it connects, which we've touched on too. So there really is no more valuable resource than community. And it's important that women seek that out. But we do have to be mindful that there are going to be better communities for moms. And one community might work for one mom and another might work for another. So not all communities are going to work for everyone. So takeaways: seek it out and be mindful that when you're looking for a community of like-minded moms, you might have to try a few before you find the one that works for you. Don't give up if you try one mom group and it feels like that one where it's like neurotic comparing and competitiveness. Leave that group behind and go try another one, because there is a group out there of like-minded moms. And set boundaries and remove yourself as much as possible from critical relationships. So if you have a relationship with someone that sets you over the edge in some way or just really brings you down, I know we can't completely end a lot of relationships. They might be a family member or what have you. But you can try to set those slightly more rigid boundaries and limit how much time you are exposed to that individual. And I also encourage all the moms I work with to really stay in touch with the woman you are outside of just being a mom. And I don't mean just being a mom is one of the most important, amazing things you will ever be, but you were a woman before you were a mom. Do not forget who that woman was. Do not forget her. If she loved running, if she loved reading, if she loved cooking fancy French dinners that no child would dream of touching, find the time to keep doing that, because that is going to be so, so critical to your own self-care and your own wellness. Her Health Collective also really encourages women to become an integral part of something bigger than themselves. So one of the things, our community of moms is called Her Circle. And one of the things we do a lot of is volunteer projects. And our moms actually can become a part of a charity team where they create the volunteer project that they want to run and organize and do. It's so, so important. And this is important for all moms, that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself, but especially for our stay-at-home moms who formerly were a big part, a career was a big part of who they were, and now they're grappling with this idea of staying home. There's a lot of emotional issues that come up in that, and this has been very, very helpful to them. And again, that personal piece, avoid judging other moms yourself. If we can practice that compassion towards other moms, maybe your family is blessed with being able to eat all organic foods and your child loves vegetables, and you're so lucky if that's the case. My child will only eat broccoli. But, if you're out at the park and you see a mom handing over those Oreo cookies and that's something you wouldn't do, don't pass that judgment. Just try to be mindful of where your own bias might come in and that judgment might fall in. The very last one is completely taking it all the way down. We've gone really, really wide and we've narrowed it down. And now we're going to look internally, and we're going to look at the personal pressure that moms put on themselves. And this is probably
earlier when you were talking about the mom groups and all that being neurotic. And I was like, you know what? I think I would be the one in the group going because at one point my son was doing yoga and he was doing swimming classes. And then I was kind of like, well, he has to do an instrument. Let's start him off with the guitar, which is such a hard thing to do. And so he was literally doing these after school classes where I was driving in traffic. We were both miserable by the time we got there. And I was kind of like, why am I doing this? And it was really me. It was no one else saying he had to do it. But I was like, no, this is what's going to make him a strong person. I want to make sure he's just better than I was. And this, do it for the next generation. And it was all me. And once I actually was we're going to take a summer off and not do anything. When it came time for summer to end, I was like, I don't want to start that again. Because it was just such an energy suck.
It is, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up that example in particular, because that's really what it comes down to. I'm going full circle here back to what I talked about in the very beginning about these expectations. We have this vision of what motherhood is going to be like, of what our child is going to be like, much like we can control another human being, right? We have this vision of what our relationship with them will be like. We have these expectations of how every single day is going to go. And the truth of the matter is that that's simply not possible. That is back to that idea of this goddess myth. We have this vision of this perfect mom, and we hold ourselves to that impossibly high standard. And that's setting us up for overwhelm, depression, anxiety, guilt. So, when you think about all of those personal pressures you put on yourself, I really encourage moms to, well, anybody, but we're talking about moms here. So redefine what success means for you. And I mean that in the sense of being a mom. So you know what? One day being a successful mom might mean that you create an elaborate obstacle course in your backyard, complete with a sprinkler and a water table and, I don't know, balloons and, this incredible elaborate thing. And that's fantastic. The next day, success might mean that you pulled out that TV and there was quite a bit of screen time. And practice grace with yourself, because you know what? That is okay. Being a successful mom is going to change day to day, and it's going to be based on what is going on in your life. Have you eaten? Do you have a stressful deadline coming up? Have you had a fight with your partner? All of these things are going to impact your role as a mom and what you're able to do. And we need to manage those expectations, those really high standards that we put on ourselves. I've found as I talk with more and more moms that some moms feel really good, all moms feel really good in one area and not so great in another area. So as a mom, I suck at playing with blocks. I hate sitting on the floor and building something. It's just not what I'm good at. But if you want me to run around the yard with that child and play tag and hide and seek, I've got it all day. I'm also really good at doing imaginative things. I can create a whole elaborate story with her and, get her going on this imaginative world that she lives in. But if she asks me to sit down and color or play with blocks, I feel like somebody's just taking my inside balloon and like sucking all the air out of it. So focusing on what it is that makes you a great mom and knowing that it might not be the same thing that you see on somebody else's social media feed. Learning the art of flexibility, again, going back to that idea of some days are going to look different than others. And we just need to be flexible and learn to roll with the punches, because that's what motherhood is, right? Rolling with the punches. And through all of that, practicing self-compassion, because this is not something we know. We have to take it a day at a time and learn as we go. There's tons of guidebooks out there, but there's no true guidebook to motherhood. It really is just a learn as you go thing. So honoring your needs through all of that. You always hear the saying, you can't fill up your own cup, or you can't fill up someone else's cup if your own cup is empty. And it's kind of cliche to say, but it's so true. Take the time to eat healthy meals, to exercise, to get outside in nature by yourself. These things are so important to resetting and coming back feeling like a better mom, really. So just in closing, Her Health Collective, as you mentioned in the beginning, is a supportive community for moms. We connect women and help them make authentic connections with each other. And then we also connect them with experts. So we bring in women's health experts, parenting experts, and we have sessions where our moms are able to communicate with those experts and ask their questions. And we are happy to have anybody come join us, follow us along, and please reach out with any questions we have a whole network of experts that we are happy to connect moms with.